Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Place under restrictions. Limit access to by law. That area is restricted to security personnel only. Place limits on, extent or amount or access. Restrict the use of this parking lot. Place restrictions on. Prevent information from being circulated or disclosed. Handle and cause to function. Control the lever. Exercise authoritative control or power over. Control the budget. Lessen the intensity of. Temper. Hold in restraint. Hold or keep within limits. Control your anger. A standard against which other conditions can be compared in a scientific experiment. The control condition was inappropriate for the conclusions he wished to draw. Place under restrictions. Limit access to by law. This substance is controlled. Discipline in personal and social activities. She never lost control of herself. Be careful or certain to do something. Make certain of something. Control the quality of the product. Maintain influence over others or oneself, skillfully, usually to one's advantage. She is a very controlling mother and doesn't let her children grow up. The state that exists when one person or group has power over another. Check or regulate a scientific experiment by conducting a parallel experiment or comparing with another standard. Are you controlling for the temperature? Great skillfulness and knowledge of some subject or activity. A mechanism that controls the operation of a machine. The speed controller on his turntable was not working properly. Have a firm understanding or knowledge of. Be on top of. Do you control these data? A relation of constraint of one entity, thing or person or group, by another. Measures for the control of disease. A spiritual agency that is assumed to assist the medium during a séance. Physiology, regulation or maintenance of a function or action or reflex, etc. The timing and control of his movements were unimpaired. Power to direct or determine. Under control. The activity of managing or exerting control over something. The control of the mob by the police was admirable. The economic policy of controlling or limiting or curbing prices or wages, etc. They wanted to repeal all the legislation that imposed economic controls. Verify by using a duplicate register for comparison. Control an account. Form the boundary of. Be contiguous to. Bound by contract. A light, self-propelled movement upwards or forwards. Spring back. Spring away from an impact. Covered or wrapped with a bandage. An injury bound in fresh gauze. The greatest possible degree of something. What he did was beyond the bounds of acceptable behavior. Usually followed by to, governed by fate. Bound to happen. Headed or intending to head in a certain direction, often used as a combining form as in college-bound students. Children bound for school. Place limits on, extent or amount or access. Move forward by leaps and bounds. The horse bounded across the meadow. A line determining the limits of an area. The line or plane indicating the limit or extent of something. Bound by an oath. A bound official. Confined by bonds. Bound and gagged hostages. Confined in the bowels. He is bound in the belly. Held with another element, substance or material in chemical or physical union. Secured with a cover or binding, often used as a combining form. Bound volumes. Deprive of freedom, take into confinement. Close in. Place limits on, extent or amount or access. To close within bounds, or otherwise limit or deprive of free movement. Prevent from leaving or from being removed. The mathematical value toward which a function goes as the independent variable approaches infinity. Decide upon or fix definitely. The greatest possible degree of something. To the limit of his ability. Restrict or confine within limits. I limit you to 2 visits to the pub a day. Place limits on, extent or amount or access. Limit the time you can spend with your friends. The boundary of a specific area. Final or latest limiting point. The greatest amount of something that is possible or allowed. There are limits on the amount you can bet. As far as something can go. Kill by squeezing the throat of so as to cut off the air. A pedal that controls the throttle valve. Place limits on, extent or amount or access. Reduce the air supply. A valve that regulates the supply of fuel to the engine. Catch in or as if in a trap. A fishing net with 3 layers. The outer 2 are coarse mesh and the loose inner layer is fine mesh. A restraint that confines or restricts freedom, especially something used to tie down or restrain a prisoner. Place limits on, extent or amount or access. An adjustable pothook set in a fireplace. A restraint that is used to teach a horse to amble. Lessen the intensity of temper. Hold in restraint. Hold or keep within limits. A horse's bit with an attached chain or strap to check the horse. Place restrictions on. A stock exchange in New York. An edge between a sidewalk and a roadway consisting of a line of curbstones, usually forming part of a gutter. The act of restraining power or action or limiting excess. Keep to the curb. Curb your dogs. Terminate or abbreviate before its intended or proper end or its full extent. Personal freedom is curtailed in many countries. Place restrictions on. Curtail drinking in school. Cut down on. Make a reduction in. The employer wants to cut back health benefits. Cultivate, tend, and cut back the growth of. Place restrictions on. Return in time. The film cut back to an earlier event in the story. Restrict or confine within limits. Restrict or confine within limits. Our actions are circumscribed by our biology, personality, and by the social and cultural context into which we are born. Draw a line around. To draw a geometric figure around another figure so that the two are in contact but do not intersect. The main tower within the walls of a medieval castle or fortress. Maintain by writing regular records. Keep a diary. Conform one's action or practice to. Keep appointments. Continue a certain state, condition, or activity. Maintain in safety from injury, harm, or danger. May God keep you. The financial means whereby one lives. Each child was expected to pay for their keep. Behave as expected during of holidays or rites. Prevent the action or expression of. Keep your cool. Stop someone or something from doing something or being in a certain state. Retain possession of. Can I keep my old stuffed animals? Supply with necessities and support. There's little to earn and many to keep. Stick to correctly or closely. Keep count. Retain rights to. Keep my job for me while I give birth. Fail to spoil or rot. These potatoes keep for a long time. A cell in a jail or prison. Prevent food from rotting. Keep potatoes fresh. Cause to continue in a certain state, position, or activity. E.g., keep clean. The students keep me on my toes. Maintain for use and service. I keep a car in the countryside. Allow to remain in a place or position or maintain a property or feature. The family's fortune waned and they could not keep their household staff. Have as a supply. I always keep batteries in the freezer. Hold and prevent from leaving. Look after. Be the keeper of. Have charge of. He keeps the shop when I am gone. Raise. She keeps a few chickens in the yard. Store or keep customarily. Where do you keep your gardening tools? Supply with room and board. He is keeping 3 women in the guest cottage. Stop someone or something from doing something or being in a certain state. We must prevent the cancer from spreading. Keep from happening or arising. Make impossible. A prejudice, especially in Polynesia and other South Pacific islands, that prohibits the use or mention of something because of its sacred nature. An inhibition or ban resulting from social custom or emotional aversion. Excluded from use or mention. A taboo subject. Forbidden to profane use, especially in South Pacific islands. Declare as sacred and forbidden. Restrict something to a particular area. Identify the location or place of. We localized the source of the infection. Locate. Concentrate on a particular place or spot. The infection has localized in the left eye. Restrict something to a particular area. Identify the location or place of. Locate. Concentrate on a particular place or spot. Arrange or order by classes or categories. How would you classify these pottery shards? Are they prehistoric? Assign to a class or kind. Declare unavailable, as for security reasons. Set boundaries to and delimit. Put a check mark on or near or next to. Mark off the units. Supply sparingly and with restricted quantities. Work hastily or carelessly. Deal with inadequately and superficially. Limit in quality or quantity. Less than the correct or legal or full amount, often deliberately so. A scant cup of sugar. Severely restrict in scope or extent. Stiffen the regulations. Become stiff or stiffer. He stiffened when he saw his boss enter the room. Make stiff or stiffer. Supply sparingly and with restricted quantities. Work hastily or carelessly. Deal with inadequately and superficially. Limit in quality or quantity. Subsist on a meager allowance. Set boundaries to and delimit. Mark out the territory. Cut down on. Make a reduction in. Reduce your daily fat intake. Take off weight. Be cooked until very little liquid is left. The sauce should reduce to 1 cup. Lessen the strength or flavor of a solution or mixture. Reduce in scope while retaining essential elements. Be the essential element. Put down by force or intimidation. Make smaller. Reduce an image. To remove oxygen from a compound, or cause to react with hydrogen or form a hydride, or to undergo an increase in the number of electrons. Narrow or limit. Reduce the influx of foreigners. Cook until very little liquid is left. The cook reduced the sauce by boiling it for a long time. Reduce in size. Reduce physically. Bring to humbler or weaker state or condition. He reduced the population to slavery. De-stress and thus weaken a sound when pronouncing it. Lessen and make more modest. Reduce one's standard of living. Lower in grade or rank or force somebody into an undignified situation. She reduced her niece to a servant. Make less complex. Reduce a problem to a single question. Reposition. A broken bone after surgery, back to its normal site. Simplify the form of a mathematical equation of expression by substituting one term for another. Undergo meiosis. The cells reduce. Prevent the action or expression of. She struggled to restrain her impatience at the delays. To close within bounds, or otherwise limit or deprive of free movement. Restrict someone or something, so as to make free movement difficult. Prevent someone or something from doing something. Security guards restrained the reporter from throwing another shoe. To close within bounds, or otherwise limit or deprive of free movement. Compel to behave in a certain way. Duty constrains one to act often contrary to one's desires or inclinations. Severely restrict in scope or extent. Repress or suppress something regarded as undesirable. Prevent the progress or free movement of. A painful and involuntary muscular contraction. A strip of metal with ends bent at right angles, used to hold masonry together. A clamp for holding pieces of wood together while they are glued. Affect with or as if with a cramp. Secure with a cramp. Cramp the wood. Suffer from sudden painful contraction of a muscle. Restrict someone or something, so as to make free movement difficult. Narrow or limit. Make tight or tighter. Severely restrict in scope or extent. Tighten the rules. Become tight or tighter. The rope tightened. A social or business relationship. He was sorry he had to sever his ties with other members of the team. A fastener that serves to join or connect. Finish a game with an equal number of points, goals, etc. The teams drew a tie. Create social or emotional ties. One of the cross braces that support the rails on a railway track. The British call a railroad tie a sleeper. A horizontal beam used to prevent two other structural members from spreading apart or separating. He nailed the rafters together with a tie beam. Fasten or secure with a rope, string, or cord. They tied their victim to the chair. The finish of a contest in which the score is tied and the winner is undecided. Their record was 3 wins, 6 losses and a tie. Connect, fasten, or put together 2 or more pieces. Neckwear consisting of a long narrow piece of material worn, mostly by men, under a collar and tied in knot at the front. He stood in front of the mirror tightening his necktie. Perform a marriage ceremony. A cord, or string or ribbon or wire etc., with which something is tied. He needed a tie for the packages. Equality of score in a contest. Form a knot or bow in. Tie a necktie. Limit or restrict to. I am tied to eunuchs. Make by tying pieces together. The fishermen tied their flies. Music, a slur over 2 notes of the same pitch, indicates that the note is to be sustained for their combined time value. Unite musical notes by a tie.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.